Box Live. We are getting started on time. I know we didn't get a chance to broadcast last week, but I am back this week and I have 2 pages worth of questions, which always makes me very, very happy. For those of you who are watching the replay, thank you again for your support. And please give me a shout out in the comment section, say replay or say hi, Kosi. Tell me who you are, where you're from, and where you're listening in from. And if you're watching the replay and you have any questions for me, go ahead, put it into the comment section. I do go back after I close the show down and I answer any questions that people may have put in for the replay. What's going on, Harsh? In the meantime, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to jump on board and just get settled into it. I came back from my kids' swim meet, so I came running back here and we're all set up and ready to go. We've got Emily coming in from Central PA. It's been a while since a Q&A. I know, Emily, and I got your questions, Emily. I'll be really honest. I haven't had a chance to read through them, so I'm going to be answering them on the fly, and hopefully, if I don't have an answer for you, Emily, you know I'm going to find you an answer. Hey there, Scott. Oh my gosh, how have you been doing, Scott? I've been thinking about you this week, so I hope your recovery is going well. So love to hear an update from you. We've got Mike coming in from New York. We got Brian Bishop who got his t-shirts. Thank you so much for tagging me in that. You got your t-shirts from Ronnie Dixon and Prosthetic Orthotic Associates of Tennessee. He was our big winner last week, so congratulations there. Ooh, Richard, you've got Kona coffee. Now, is it like real Kona coffee or the stuff that they call Kona coffee and then you look and it's like only 10% Kona? Because I'm a coffee snob, so I have to ask. I love Kona coffee. Oh my gosh. Especially when they put like a macadamia nut flavor into it. That's, ooh, see? Yeah, we got Pastor David on board at the party. We got Mark S. So I'm assuming that means there's no basketball, right? There's no basketball because it's not basketball season. We got Tom. Tom, I have been meaning to send you a message, and I'm going to send you a message after this is over. Let's see. Good, Scott. I'm glad to hear you're doing better. Emily's just got her peach tea there. Let's see. We've got Moet Queen. Good evening from St. Louis. Thank you for joining in. Ooh, Richard says it's real and it's a K-Cup special. All right. All right. I love Kona coffee. That's good stuff right there. All right, guys, we've got a nice little crew on board. I do apologize. Last week, there was just simply a family matter I had to attend to. Nothing bad, but just something I had to attend to. And I forgot to post that I was going to cancel last week's show. So I do apologize. Some of you guys were so sweet sending me messages, making sure everything was okay. It was a mom brain moment that I just forgot to post that we were not going to be having a show. So this week, like I said, we got 2 pages? 3 pages of questions. So I am so excited and I am going to go ahead and get started. All right. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Kosi Veyoso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I've been a PT. It's going to be 23 years this December, guys, since I got my license officially. Pretty cool, huh? And then I was, I've been kind of quiet on the social media scene because I've been working behind the scenes and trying to get things ready for 2024, and hopefully we'll have some exciting things to announce in the next couple of months. We'll see. We'll see. We got Kays. Hey, there's Kays. Oh, it was such a pleasure getting to meet you at the AC conference, Kays. You just bring a smile to my face. All right, guys. So let's jump in with the first question from Vala. Vala asks, what can you tell me about the socketless socket? I am a left below the knee since 2018 from sepsis. The research I've done is that it's pretty interesting. Yes, it is pretty interesting. And it's been a hot topic of conversation on the Kosi Talk Show for the better part of the 5 years I've been broadcasting, right? So socket, some people call it a socketless socket. Some people call it adjustable socket. Depends on which branding you're talking about. But it's the ability for the socket to expand or to shrink because some form of adjustability was built into the socket. So you guys know that the star of my show is always the Click Medical socket. This is their RevoFit. And they have a click reel, right? And you twist the reel. It's actually very, very quiet, very low profile, right? And then it shrinks the socket. And this particular one has a gap design, right? So there's a couple of ways that they can add adjustability into the socket with the RevoFit design. Then you have other adjustable socket systems. The one that's referred to as the socketless socket is the Martin Bionic socket. And I always tell people, I've seen a couple of patients with the Martin Bionic sockets. I am not as familiar, okay? And then there's another group, and this is kind of what I see in some of the more mom and pop prosthetist clinics where they will come up with their own form or flavor of adjustable socket. And many of them will use kind of a ratchet design. The prosthetist I'm thinking of in particular, his name is Rick, and he's in Bremer Prosthetics in Jacksonville, Florida. And he actually makes a very beautiful adjustable socket using ratchets. It's very elegant design, but it's kind of a design that he kind of came up with on his own. And sometimes you'll see prosthetists who do this. My opinion on adjustable sockets is I think it's a very great solution for a lot of problems. I know here in Florida, a lot of my viewers and my patients who live in Florida experience dramatic volume changes because of the humidity year round that we have here. So I think, and I actually just made a video about this that will be coming out very soon. I think that adjustable technology should be discussed with every patient. Whether it's applicable for every patient, no, because there's no one fit that will, apply to everybody, no one technique, no one prosthetic componentry. But I do think it's worth a discussion. Okay. Let's see. What do we got? We got a lot of people chit-chatting here, so I want to see what people are saying. Let's see. Mark says it's 33 days till B-ball. Let's see. Marianne is here. Oh, Marianne, then you're headed to Baca Boot Camp next Wednesday. This will be your second time going, right, Marianne? Harsh is saying an apple a day in place of a drink. We can do that. We got Stevenson coming in from New Jersey. Susan from Canada. Let's see. Kesha is asking, would that work for an hourglass shaped BKA? That's a really great question, Kesha, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So actually, adjustable sockets like this are specifically made for folks who may have a bulbous limb, and that's kind of what you're describing. When you think of the hourglass shape in a BK, it means that's a little probably more bulbous at the end, which can make it difficult to put into a socket that's rigid, right? So here's my model socket. So they kind of put everything onto one socket so I could demo it. So you can see there's a gap design here, and you can see the little cords that tighten, right? So if you're someone who has a bulbous limb, you would open up the socket, put your limb inside, and then twist it, right, to make it close in. And that way you can keep the fit down here, but you can get it in without being in pain. I hope that makes sense. So yes, definitely for folks who have limbs that are not textbook shaped or perhaps that are more bulbous at the end, an adjustable socket might be a good one. And I think they also use, it's called a hinge panel. So you can see, sorry, I've got like all sorts of dials on this one because this is my, okay. So you can see this is a panel design. Okay, so sometimes people who have like a bulbous end, they'll leave the panel open to allow it to drop in. In other cases, it's like a hinge design. And this one doesn't have a hinge, but basically it would open this way. Does that make sense? The panel would hinge open that way. Okay, so there you have it with this one. Okay, let's see. Up. See these questions coming in. Hang on. Is Van Gregory on board this evening, by the way? Van Gregory, you had a question. If you're on board listening, you had a question for me weeks ago, and you probably thought I forgot about it. But I didn't, and I looked up the answer, and I got it for you. So if you're here tonight, Van Gregory, I want to hear from you. We got Denise coming from North Carolina. We got Chuck from Wyoming. All right. Let me read Stephen's question. Okay, so Stephen, yes. Stephen is asking, here's a question. I'm from New Jersey, Monmouth County, Keensburg area. I cannot find a rehab that will take amputees or a place to go for rehab. I've called 10 different rehabs, 5 big name companies within my area. None of them work with amputees. Is that like everywhere or at other states too, with a lot of rehabs that do not work with amputees? Unfortunately, the answer to that is yes. There are not a lot of centers. I call them centers of excellence, meaning hospitals or rehab centers that have amputee specialists, that they have PTs and OTs, they have PM&R doctors and things like that. I will say, Stephen, and this is something, you know what, Stephen? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to email me your question again. There's my email right there. And guys, this is for anybody. This is my email. I answer it within 2 business days. If you have any questions, you can send me your email. But Stephen, what I want you to do is I want you to send me an email, and let me just see. I'll look in my network and just see if there's anything that I can find in your area, physical therapist or rehab center that specializes in amputees. I would love to encourage you to go back and watch my show from 2 weeks ago with Dr. Shu. Okay, so Dr. Shu came on the show, kind of an interesting alliteration there. And he works for Atrium Health, and they are located in the Carolinas. And the program that he has set up there for his amputees is mind-blowing. He developed this program based on the model that they use in the military for treating their amputee soldiers, right? And he basically took that model and recreated something very, very similar in a civilian hospital. And it's amazing. It's amazing. He was on the show 2 weeks ago talking all about it. So Stephen, I kind of want you to go back and listen to that show. You can find it on my YouTube channel, because he describes what it is that you can look for, how to look for these kind of centers of excellence, okay? But in the meantime, email me and let me see if I can't help you out there somehow. We got Keitha coming in from Sweet Home, Alabama. All right, we got David Donahue in South Carolina drinking green tea. I'm going a mile a minute tonight. Okay, I'm going to save my Van Gregory question for if I see him jump on board. So Van Gregory, if you're listening this evening, darling, give me a shout out because I got your question here waiting for you. Okay. Sharon asks, hi, Cozy, 5-year below the knee amputee. What type of doctor do amputees consult for possible nerve issues in the residual limb? Not necessarily phantom pain, not sensation. Thank you for all that you do. So Sharon, a couple of different doctors, right? Usually people go see their primary care. Primary care, unless they're usually not specialized in amputees. I really just don't see that, right? PM&R doctor. Physical medicine and rehabilitation doctor. They are the kind of doctors, and you'll see some of them that specialize in working with amputees, right? The Atrium Health Hospital that I just mentioned, they have a PM&R doctor that specializes in amputees, right? So the physical medicine and rehabilitation doctor is going to be well-versed in a wide variety of specialties, right? So they're going to see someone with nerve pain and know to which neurologist to refer them to, which specialist to refer them to. You can also just go straight to a neurologist and make an appointment with them there. I would encourage you, try to seek out a PM&R doctor, probably because they have a better networking to know which neurologists are more familiar with working with amputees. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, guys, for me, PM&R doctor is an important one to have in your Rolodex as an amputee. That's kind of one of your lifelong buddies. Those of you who had a stay in inpatient rehab after your amputation, you were most likely followed by a PM&R doctor. Okay. All right. Anybody here familiar with that? You know, familiar with PM&R, physical medicine, rehabilitation doctor? Give me a shout out in the comment section if you had one of those following you during your recovery. Oh, Kesha, that's like, man, Kesha, you got some good questions. She's asking, my leg doctor and prosthetist don't agree on how to handle my care most of the time. What should I do about this type of situation? Yeah, that's a tough one. And we talk a lot about communication on the show. I know that as a physical therapist, I am a very verbal member of the team, right? And I advocate a lot for my patients, and I'm constantly communicating with the prosthetist. Usually that's my main point of contact. And occasionally I do have to reach out to the doctor in the outpatient setting. The thing to remember, Kesha, number one, are you happy? You know, if you're happy with your doctor and you're happy with your prosthetist, then yes, you want to work to see about them talking and playing nicely in the sandbox together. If you feel like one of them is not cutting it as a clinician for you and not meeting your needs, then maybe that's also contributing to the difficulty with communication. And then the other thing to think about, Kesha, is there's many times where I've had disagreements in professional opinion with the prosthetist, with the occupational therapist, with the doctor. No animosity, just simply that I have a different opinion than what they have. And then we have to come together and figure out a compromise, and we need to include the patient in this decision-making process. Okay, so in this case, Kesha, you're the one who should be kind of driving the reins here, saying, this is what I need. This is what I need from my prosthesis to do what I need to do with my life. You know, these are the things missing from my life right now that I can't do because of something going on with my prosthesis. and I need y'all to figure out what's going on, right? So, whether it's a case with the prosthetic componentry, if it has to do with how the prosthesis is fitting, okay, you need to be very specific in your needs, Kesha. So when my patients come to see me, the first questions I ask them is, what is it that you want to be able to do? What is it that you have to be able to do? For example, in your work setting, in your home setting, in your social setting, if you're someone who is active in sports, what are the things that you need to be able to do? Because that's going to help determine my plan of care treatment that I will prescribe for you. And it's also going to determine the kind of prosthetic componentry that your prosthetist and your doctor are going to be recommending. Okay, so I would say start there. Start with what are your needs? What is that you want to be able to do, and what are your goals? And you need to tell your doctor and your prosthetist very carefully, right? And then go from there. Start there. Very good question, though. Very good question. Let's see. Emily says, my physiatrist is a specialist in amputees. He came on a month after my amputation in rehab. There we go. Let's see. Jerry says, hi, Cozy from Arizona. I just had surgery yesterday on both of my legs, so I'm a little slow tonight. My left leg had an issue with the bone. He said it was soft and brittle. Have you heard of that? Yes, Jerry. And I hope you're feeling better with your surgeries. So yes, sometimes with not sometimes, a lot of times with amputees, over the course of time, the residual limb will develop weakening of the bone, right? And there's a couple of different stages. The first stage is osteopenia, where there's a weakening of the bone, and then a more severe form is called osteoporosis, right? And this can happen in men and in women, okay? So just a general rule of thumb, our bones are constantly turning over new bone cells, right? Just like all the other cells in our body, there's a constant turnover of bone cells. What determines how much of a turnover there is with fresh new bone is dependent on how much pressure we put on our bone, right? So actually one of the first things I learned, and I'll never forget, this was probably my first class in physical therapy school, we were learning what was called Wolff's Law, right? Wolff's Law states that the more pressures you're putting through the bone, right, the more you're stimulating the bone to overturn and produce new bone cells, okay? So that's why when you see studies saying that women who have osteoporosis should actually do very gentle weightlifting. Why? Because we're putting gentle pressure on those bones and we're stimulating the bones, right, to produce new bone cells. So what happens with an amputee? Well, when you're wearing a traditional socket, something like this, traditional socket, you're not putting weight in through your bone. Your weight is being supported by the soft tissues in your residual limb, by the fat, by the muscle, by the tendons, right? Not your bone. So your bone is not receiving any kind of stimulation and no kind of weight bearing. So it's not getting that stimulation to produce new bone cells, right? So this can lead to osteopenia and in severe cases, osteoporosis, okay? What's cool is the osseointegration procedure, okay? That's where they put depending on which type of procedure you have done, but basically a metal rod, titanium, is inserted directly into the bone, and then you attach your prosthesis to it. So in that case, you are putting weight into the bone and you are stimulating bone cells. So it's going to be very interesting to see in the next few years the studies of amputees who have osseointegration to see how their bone stock is doing compared to those who use a traditional socket. Okay, I know it's like a little bit of a long-winded answer, but there you have it. So yes, if it means that you have soft and brittle, it means that you probably should be getting a bone density check. It's called a DEXA, D-E-X-A scan, and just to have them do a baseline to see how your bones are doing. Jerry, because you're a woman, you should be getting checked. I think you're a woman. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time. Yes, you're a woman. The pictures are this big sometimes. And you have to check to see at the hips, at the back, and at the wrists, okay, just to see how everything is doing. Okay, so let's keep going. So Jerry says that she had a PM&R doc following her. Okay, Kesha asked, do I do one-on-one video sessions with advice and information? Kesha, I think you've got like really amazing abilities to read people's minds. You're asking some of the best questions here. That is something that I have kind of considered to open up a consultation type service for my viewers where I can give them consulting services. And guys, can I just bother you for a second and do a quick poll? Is that something you guys would be interested in? It would be a paid consultation. But if I were to open up a consultation service where I could just talk to you guys for 15, 20 minutes and you guys ask me your questions one-on-one, and I kind of guide you on a one-on-one basis, is that something you guys would be interested in? Put it in the comment section. And guys, I won't, my ego is not that big. If you're like, nah, Kelsey, forget it, we're not going to do something like that. But if that's something that you guys would be interested in me potentially looking out for, then you know, go ahead and put it in the comment section. Let's see. Oh, good. Andrew, you're watching me from the YouTube channel. And guys, I am broadcasting from the YouTube channel as well. So in case you have a hard time finding me. Can healed BKs weight bear at the blended knee? Thinking quadruped, all fours for bone strength, lots of balance stuff you can do also. Yes, absolutely yes. As long as there's no damage to the sound knee, as long as there's nothing wonky going on there, yes. And I think doing quadruped is a fantastic exercise for people who can tolerate being quadruped, meaning just being on all fours. I know it's an exercise that I've used often on my patients, even sometimes on my AKs, where I just have to get creative when putting pillows on the AK side so that they're not completely leaning into the residual limb and just kind of gauging their tolerance to putting weight bearing through that side. But certainly we can do some great activations with core activation. Guys, and Andrea, I know you do this with stroke patients. A lot of times we'll try to put the person into all fours because it promotes the weight bearing, good kind of weight bearing through the joints. And again, activating those core muscles and all those muscle strategies. So yes, someone who's been cleared, and usually when I'm not sure from a PT standpoint, I always like to clear things with the surgeon and say, okay, can I go ahead and put my patient on all fours? Everything's good with the healing process. Okay, then off we go. So Jerry says, I do have osteoporosis. Can I reverse it? I've been doing your weights on my legs from your book and videos. So Jerry, this is something that if you have a confirmed case of osteoporosis, then I would definitely seek out a physical therapist. Make sure that you're not being aggressive with your strengthening exercises. And this is something that you need to clear with your physical therapist. As far as it being reversible, and again, this is where I'm not a doctor. So this is something you have to consult with the doctor. I know that there are certain medications out there that some of them are pretty aggressive with helping rebuild the bone and stimulate that bone to grow again. Again, it's been a minute. And again, some of these medications are pretty strong with some pretty strong side effects. So it's not to be taken lightly. So again, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor about these kind of things and talk to them about what your options are. But Jerry, I know there are studies out there showing that with appropriate strength training. Okay. And this is something, again, if you have osteoporosis and you want to start a strength training program, you need to go and seek the services of a physical therapist so that they can monitor to make sure you're not being too aggressive with your movement, right? And also with the amount of weight that you are using. Okay. So even if you just have a physical therapist create a program for you, or if you have my program and they pick out the exercises that are appropriate for you, right? And they just monitor you every once in a while, your progress, okay? Something like that. Mike says, as a bilateral AK, I just got the RevoClick socket and it is life-changing. I no longer fear my leg falling off and I can walk around without crutches. Mike, that is awesome. Mike, if you could do me a huge favor, and this is asking you for a huge favor, could you please email me? Ooh, there, sorry, I'm typing the wrong button. Mike, if you could email that to me, and with your permission, I'd like to share that with the Click Medical team. Click Medical has been a sponsor on my show for almost 2 years now. And I always like to show them, you know, this is what their support is helping with my viewers. So with your permission, if you wouldn't mind writing that and sending it to me, and guys, in general, if those of you who have watched the show and you've gained any kind of knowledge, or it's helped you ask questions to your providers about procedures or componentry that you didn't know about before, I love receiving that kind of feedback. And yes, I can accept also constructive criticism in the sense if you want to hear something else that I haven't covered or whatever, don't be shy, let me know. All right, let's see. Emily says they had me on all fours and then tall kneeling in outpatient rehab. Yep, that's a big one, especially for the glutes. Woo, you'll get a glute workout with that tall kneeling. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. It's something I've been kind of toying with. Let's see. Greg! Oh, my Greg is on board. What's up, man? Haven't seen you in a long time. Greg, I got your email and I promise you I'm not ignoring you. I am going through everything one at a time. Oh man, guys, I got to give out a shout out to Greg. Greg and I used to hang out a lot more a few years back when we were both working with VitalFit, that skincare company that I still love to recommend. And Greg and I did a ton of shows together. I have to brag about Greg a little bit and make him blush. He is an amazing prosthetist, and he is a 22-time Paralympian and Olympian. Yeah, downhill alpine skier. Did I get that right? I don't know snow sports very well, so hopefully I got that one right, Greg. Greg, man, it's good to see you. Good to see you. All right, and then Mark is saying, I love my click dial. I like it too. All right, let's see what we got. Woohoo! Speaking of VitalFit, Susan asks, I have a question. I seem to have chronic chafing at the top of my socket. I've tried many different creams, including Adapt Skin. I may go back to boy shorts if needed for biking shorts. Not sure if you have any suggestions. It just seems like I do get a lot of chafing and some swelling from the abrasion. Yes, hot, sticky Florida. Welcome to heat rashes and all that kind of fun stuff. So we talk a lot about skin on the show. And the more I get into being a clinician, the more years that go by, the more I realize that you've got to kind of hodgepodge and piece together what works for you, okay? The general recommendation I do like to give is the VitalFit, and I'll just write that name down. The VitalFit products, and I think I remember their website off the top of my head. If I can do that, didn't record it either. Okay, I believe that's the correct website. They are the only products on the market that I've seen so far that have a comprehensive line for amputees. So their products were specifically made for folks who are wearing a prosthetic device, right? So they have a daytime cream, a nighttime cream, a cleanser, and then they have a liquid to powder lotion. And all of these things really absorb nicely into the skin. They don't leave a residue. They don't make your skin oily or anything like that. When it comes to chafing, the liquid to powder is by far my favorite formula. And I really like their formula because it doesn't get all gummy and gross. And you can continue to layer it on throughout the day. So I know one of my runners, when she and I go for a longer run, around mile 2 or 3, she's got to peel back her liner and add a little bit more, and then she can keep going. But she can keep layering it on. And like I said, it won't get gross and gummy, right? So I do love that. When it comes to your liner, that might be something else to kind of just check and see. Some folks, silicone is usually the general material that people have in their liner, and that's actually a very skin-friendly material. It's very low on the allergenic thing. But some people do have a sensitivity to the silicone, and they might do better with a custom polyurethane liner, and in some cases even a gel liner. I mean, again, it's one of those things where bring this back to your prosthetist and just ask, what other things can you do? The other thing you might want to think about is also the fit of your liner. If things are not super snug and fit, and if there's any kind of friction going on, you're going to get chafing. It's just going to happen. So you need to keep a close eye on the liner. Make sure it's the right sizing. Okay, it shouldn't be strangling you, right? But it shouldn't be easy to put on. It should take some effort to put on your liner. It should fit snugly. And then making sure that you're changing it as it gets stretched out, right? If it takes you more than a minute to put your liner on, it might mean that it's a little stretched out, right? It should take a little effort to put it on. Excuse me, folks. All right, let's see. Rob says, I've regularly been bringing up information gleaned from your broadcast to my physician PT and my prosthetist, and it started with finding your video 1, 2, 3 cockroach. And through your info is how I discovered the RevoFit, which I now use. Rob, thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever live down the 1, 2, 3 step cockroach. It's in my book. That exercise is in my book, and it's in one of the videos I think I've done on YouTube. So it's Florida. We have cockroaches, and they're huge and they fly. So yeah, I've incorporated that into my exercise routines for my patients. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it. Drew asks, does it matter what leg you take the first step with? Should it be the prosthetic leg or the good leg? So the answer to that is two-part. If you are an experienced prosthetic user, right, you should be able to take your step with whichever leg you should go first with. It should be equal with both. When you're first starting out, I actually have changed how I teach things over the years. I've evolved, and you'll find that, guys. You'll find that your clinicians are constantly, hopefully, adjusting and evolving their treatment and their plan of care for their patients. So back when I first started, I used to tell my patients, step first with the prosthetic leg. We got to teach that brain that the prosthetic leg, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I've kind of changed. I'm focusing more now on teaching the stance in the prosthetic leg. Okay, what I mean by that is, let me see if I can stand up without knocking all that stuff down. When you're walking, right, your foot is either in stance or in swing. When your foot is in stance, it's connected to the ground, right? When it's in swing, it's swinging through the air. And guys, there's a really great video I did on this, and it's in my YouTube channel on the gait cycle. For those of you who haven't seen it, go watch it, because then this is really going to make more sense. So when your foot is in stance, meaning your foot is connected to the floor, your entire body weight has to be placed into that foot. Okay. And to me, I think that's the most difficult concept for the new amputee, and even for some of my veteran amputees. Okay. So I've really switched my gears over the years. So I don't focus on taking a step with the prosthetic side first. I focus on putting the weight into the prosthetic side. So I'm going to stand up and show you. So we'll just pretend that this is my prosthetic side, okay, and I'm going to lift this leg. So I focus a lot on putting the weight into the prosthetic side, right? Getting the body to accept the weight and to be able to balance, to be able to activate the hip and gluteal muscles to help stabilize this. And then there's various exercises that I will do, right, to get the person to really start to initiate the movement while they're in stance phase. So what that means is they might take the first step with the other leg. As my patients progress and they get better with their balance and we're doing more high-level skills, then I'll start to switch it up and say, okay, you know what? I want you to take this obstacle course and I want you to lead with your prosthetic side. And then on the way back, I want you to lead with your sound side. And yes, at that point with the high-level skills, I will have them switch up and down a lot. And actually, let me just show you this. Hang on. All right, so those of you who have my book, or if you have my videos, here we go. Oh, this is one of my favorite examples, actually. And if you guys want me to put the video up and share it right now, tell me in the comment section and I'll share the video right now so you guys can see it. So this is an exercise called braiding. It's a pretty high level balance exercise. You're crisscrossing your feet in front and behind each other. Okay, so in this case, you can see that my patient model is leading with his prosthetic side. Okay. And then on this side, I call it braiding reverse. He's leading with his sound side. Okay. So for the high level stuff, I have people initiate the activity with both, taking turns with both legs. Yeah, I know it's a long-winded answer, Kesha. I tend to be kind of long-winded with my answers. That's why I tell people to bring a drink for the show. All right, let's see. Emily says I have the winter gel liner with my prosthesis. That's a great one. So Mike says Dr. Rye from Long Island is amazing. He's a PM&R doctor and works off of Zoom if you're not in the area. That's kind of nice. Jill says my prosthetist ordered my new liner in May. Woo, said it would be 4 days to get it. Called him again 2 weeks ago, still not here. Do you know anything about supply issues? Anyone else going through this? Jill, that's an awfully long time. So that's May, that's 5 months. Something's not right. I don't know what. because I'm not the one who orders these supplies. But yeah, no, 5 months, unless it's like, but even with the custom made polyurethane liners, they don't take that long. Like, I think the longest I typically hear about those is like 6 to 8 weeks. And that's a really long time. I don't know. I'd kind of squeak the wheel there a little bit, Jill. David says, I was in the Army, left foot first, and I can't change that. Well, that's the Army that did that to you. That's not the amputation that did that to you, David. So Rob says, the hardest thing to do when I started PT was lifting my right foot off the ground while standing on my prosthetic leg. It took several sessions to get beyond the mental block of trusting weight on my prosthesis. Yes. And guys, those of you, here's a good time for one of my shameless plugs, because I kind of do that a lot. I put together an entire exercise program, guys, and it has over 150 exercise videos for above the knee and below the knee amputees. So you can subscribe to the videos by clicking on that link. And with the videos comes a book. There's an above the knee book and a below the knee book. And many of you are using this book right now. So in the beginning of the book, I have a lot of exercises for those, what I call the foundational exercises. And those are the exercises that teach you how to accept the weight into the prosthesis, right? And it's very simple exercises. I love doing them. I love shocking people, because people are always like, this is really easy. Oh, wait, it's not that easy as it looks exercise, and look, it's working, right? So if you haven't had the chance, guys, go there. You can actually see some of the sample videos on the main page, and you can take a look at those before you commit to subscribing to the program. But it's a good program. Good program. All right, let's see. Marching band does that too. That's funny. Okay. Here's a good one. Every once in a while, I'll get a question from a clinician, and I love getting to know other clinicians that are also working with amputees. So Jennifer asked me, I'm a pediatric physical therapist practicing in the school district. I have a 4-year-old bilateral above the knee amputee, and I'm looking for quality continuing education resources regarding prosthetic components and updates in rehab since I graduated from school 25 years ago. Do you work with pediatric amputees, and do you have any good recommendations for quality continuing education? So this is partially an answer for my clinicians, but it's also for you guys, my viewers, to kind of get a little insight there. So yes, unfortunately, there is a shortage of good continuing education courses out there for physical therapists to take for amputees. So what do I mean by that? If you're a nurse, doctor, PT, OT, psychologist, something in the medical profession, you most likely have to take continuing ed courses and complete a certain amount of credits every so often. For physical therapists in the state of Florida, I have to complete 24 credit hours of education every 2 years, right? So usually for me, I try to scope out courses that are relevant to the population I am treating, right? So obviously for me, amputees. Not a lot out there, not a whole lot out there. So for those of you who are clinicians, PTs and OTs alike, there's a phenomenal course being taught at the University of St. Augustine by Dr. Scott Love and Dr. Angela Morgan. They are two of my colleagues that I highly, highly respect. I've taken the course, phenomenal course. When it comes to pediatric peds, have I treated pediatrics? Yes, I actually spent the first 1.5 years of my licensing working in the pediatric hospital. So here's the thing about working with children with amputations. If it is an amputation that was acquired, meaning usually due to trauma or cancer, okay? And if it was after the age of 8, then you can typically treat the pediatric patient as you would an adult patient. And the reason is by the time a child reaches 8 years of age, they have achieved a mature adult gait pattern. Okay, so those of you who have kids, I've got 4 beautiful kids, and this is always kind of fun watching them go through those developmental stages with a physical therapist lens on. If you look at kids carefully, right, they're walking by the time they're between 1 year, 1.5 years old, right? But the actual mature gait pattern doesn't really come into play until they're 8 years old. And that's also when they can run. If you notice little kids when they're running, they look so cute because they're also a little awkward and they're not really smooth with their running gait pattern. Okay, so if you kind of notice that when they're hit 8 years old, all of a sudden they look like little humans, right? That's because they are. Okay, so if a child is an amputee because of cancer or trauma, then you can treat them like the adult patient. And I think this is where some PTs are a little hesitant and they don't realize that. If it is a child with a congenital amputation, it was a limb loss, limb difference, we have different ways of phrasing it nowadays, something that they acquired before that they were born. That's how they were born, missing their limb. Then that can be a little bit different. If there's any other comorbidities, if there's any other syndrome associated with that, then that's where a pediatric specialist really can shine, and because they are the experts on developmental gait. There are some congenital amputations. For example, the one that comes to mind right now is due to amniotic band syndrome. So for example, the child perhaps is a below the knee amputee from amniotic band syndrome, and that's it. There's no other medical conditions, in which case a developmental physical therapist, a pediatric physical therapist, is the best for that patient, even more so than someone like me. Someone like me might come into play a little bit more later on to help with the prosthetic side. That makes sense? All right. So what do you do for patients? Oh, and just to kind of backtrack on that. So I haven't treated pediatric patients too much since I stopped working at the hospital. And the reason for that is because for me, even though I do have experience working with kids, a pediatric specialist, in my opinion, is going to be way more qualified at treating some of these developmental disorders that can happen with children. So occasionally I'll have somebody who asks, hey, can you go see this pediatric patient? And if it's a pediatric patient that's younger than 8 years old and they have some a syndrome or a developmental disorder, then usually I will refer them to one of my pediatric specialist colleagues because they're going to do a better job than I can. All right, so Kesha asks, what do you do for patients that have a below the knee amputation and have a protruding shin bone? Oh, that's a lot of our BKs here. So the reason for that is because if you look at your shin, right, there's not a whole lot of meat on there, not a whole lot of tissue on that front part, right? And it's just a little tiny muscle called the anterior tibialis and not a whole lot going on. So as the muscle atrophies, that bone becomes much more pronounced, okay? And actually, we had a really great conversation about this with Ronnie Dixon 2 weeks ago. I had like back-to-back shows, sponsored shows with Dr. Shu and then with Ronnie Dixon. So Kesha, when you can, go to my YouTube channel, and it's under Cozy Talks as well. There we go. Okay, go to my YouTube channel and watch the most recent live video I did with Ronnie Dixon, okay? And we were talking about how you make a socket. And he was talking about how when he has especially his below the knee amputees that have that protruding tibia bone, that he casts them a certain way to help the soft tissue kind of cover and pad that area. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, how your socket is made. Okay, so this is something that your prosthetist should kind of have in mind and have some experience doing. So go back and listen to that video and see the tricks that Ronnie does. The second thing to ask your prosthetist about is the liner that you're using. Okay, usually you start off, most folks, like I said, will start off with a silicone liner. Those are great liners, guys. I love silicone liners, and I think that's a pretty good base of start for 90% of amputees. But if you're finding that that tibia bone is still becoming a huge problem, looking at something called a polyurethane liner. It's a specialized custom-made liner. It is a little more expensive, okay? It can help sometimes with shuttling the pressure away from very sensitive areas. So my folks who have a particularly bony prominence somewhere, my folks who have skin grafts, right, that are very sensitive to abrasion, okay? And again, prosthetists are pretty amazing when they can have their bag of tricks of things that they can do to help, relieve pressure in those areas. But those are two of the kind of the basic things to start off with and to ask your prosthetist about. Okay, what do we got? Hang on. Ooh, okay. All right, so this question came in from another one of my colleagues, and he is from Argentina. So for one of my South American colleagues, and he asked me this question in Spanish, so I'm going to answer it in English first, and then I'm going to answer it in Spanish. So bear with me. He said, what are my thoughts on the talio adjust foot? Okay. So guys, when somebody names like a foot like that to me, unless it's like one of the companies that I've worked with and partnered with, and I've really gotten to know a lot of their product line, I'm going to sit there and go, which one's that one again? Because they got all these really cool names like the Talio Adjust, right? And this one's made by Ottobock. I'm familiar with this foot. It's made by Ottobock. I've had a couple of patients with it. But for me, when I think about a foot, whether it's a good foot or not a good foot or whatever, what I think about foot is I think about what specifications does this foot meet? Okay. And I've done lots and lots of shows. How many of y'all have watched my How to Choose a Prosthetic Foot or Prosthetic Foot 101 show? Like, raise a hands in the comment section. How many of you guys watched that show? I've done like 5 or 6 versions of that show. And I love doing it. So guys, when I think about prosthetic feet, I think about what classification do they fall into? Is it a satch foot? Is it a single axis foot? Is it a multi-axial foot? Is it an energy storing foot? Is it a hydraulic foot? Is it a microprocessor foot with hydraulic componentry, right? Is it a mixture? Does it have a little bit of multi-axial with a little bit of energy storing? And we're starting to see a lot more of those feet coming along, right? Because that will tell me what the foot does and who it's made for, okay? So like I said, I haven't had a chance to officially work with Ottobock. I hope to work with them someday because they got some really great stuff. But I just went to their website and I say, okay, what is the Talio Adjust? So the Talio Adjust, it looks like it's a height adjustable foot. So specifically for ladies who want to wear different size heels, and I think it adjusts up to 7 centimeters, I think it's what it said. But it's on the specs on their website right there. But the description, it didn't give me a good description to know what kind of foot, what classification it falls into. I know it's meant for K2 and K3 users. So I went back and I looked up what the Talio is, right? And here's some of the key words that came up. Smooth rollover, no dead spots, easy rollover so it's a very nice, easy rollover kind of foot. And here's the key words: energy efficient walking that returns energy. Okay, so just from, deduction there, it's going to be an energy response foot, meaning when you put your foot and your weight into the foot, it then returns the energy to you as you step off the foot. Okay, so it works almost like a pogo stick. That's the best way I can equate it, right? You bounce into the foot with a pogo stick, and then as you go up, all that energy, that potential energy turns into kinetic energy and shoots you up into the air. So it's kind of a rough way to explain how our energy response feet work, okay? So they are meant for a higher level and they can get up and around the terrain, and it's a great foot. So usually my recommendation is if you find that you are in the market for an energy response, energy storing foot, some people call it dynamic response, the old folks like me, that you look at one from the different companies, okay? So you look to see what different companies produce for that classification of foot and then trial it out. So let's see. So Jerry said that's what I just had fixed on both legs, sharp tibia bones, and he trimmed down the tibia bone as well. And again, this is that's usually kind of the last resort. So usually when you have someone who has a prominent tibia bone, you try all the conservative measures first, and if it's getting to the point where the person is not functional, there's no prosthetic solution to this, then sometimes in some cases they may refer the person back to the surgeon to see if there's any kind of a revision that may need to be done. Johnny says you got a lot of energy response. I'm running on fumes tonight, Johnny B. Let me just tell you. And Johnny, I didn't hear you announce yourself when you came on the show tonight. Come on, man. I need my Johnny V entering the Cozy Talk studio. Mike is saying, with my new sockets, I'm getting bad bruising in my groin. Is it okay to continue until I get an adjustment made? Also, other than a yearly physical, is there anything amputees should have done? That's a great question. Look, when it comes to bruising, especially in that area, that's a sign that something's not right, Mike. That's really something that's not right. You need to just kind of squeak that wheel and see how fast you can get in to see the prosthetist, because to continue to walking on that, you're just going to continue to hurt yourself. That's not good, because your body needs to have that pressure relieved in order to heal those bruises. So if you just keep putting those sockets on, you're just going to keep bruising yourself. And I get it. Having to wait for an adjustment to be made is a total pain. But you kind of want to figure out what's going on here. Is it because the socket is too tight? Is it pinching somewhere? Obviously, it's pinching somewhere if it's causing that kind of bruising. But I would say, call the prosthetist office and just see how quickly you can be seen and just explain to them, I'm not able to walk because this bruising is going on, right? See if you can get in there a little bit sooner. And if, other than a yearly physical, is there anything amputees should also have done? Well, a lot of it just depends on your medical health. For myself, I'm a breast cancer survivor, and thankfully I'm 7 years out. So for me, and other than that, I am healthy, knock on wood. I'm very healthy. So I have my yearly physical with my OBGYN. I have my yearly exam with my oncologist, and I do have my yearly checkup with my primary care. Okay. With amputees, I recommend the same thing. If you're a woman, you should be seeing your OBGYN once a year at the very least, unless you have other things going on. You should be seeing your primary care to get that checkup. Yes, every year, along with your dentist, right? And also any of your specialists. So I guess the question you should ask yourself is, what is it that led to your amputation? If it was because of diabetes, blood pressure, metabolic disease, autoimmune disease, then you need to continue to see that specialist to make sure that things are being stable. I actually got onto one of my patients not too long ago about seeing his vascular surgeon. He lost his limb due to vascular issues, and he had not been in to see his vascular surgeon since his amputation 5 years prior. So if you're someone who lost your limb because of vascularity issues, problems with your veins and your arteries, then you need to continue to see someone who is monitoring those veins and arteries to make sure that things are not progressing in the wrong direction with your other limb. Okay. So a lot of it just depends on what is your medical condition. But yeah, I'm very much proactive about staying on top of things, and you are your best advocate. It's funny, I have 4 kids, and my oldest is a junior in high school. And, my husband and I are preparing her to eventually obviously be independent with her studies, to, pursue a continued education in a college institution. And one of the things that we're teaching her is you have to be your own advocate. Your teachers and your professors are not going to be on top of you to make sure that you did your homework, that you did all your grades, that you turned everything in, that you're listening to all the assignments. That's something that you have to be active about. And the same thing as in your medical care, right? Your doctor's not going to be calling you to say, make sure you get in for your appointment, or they might give you one reminder, but that's it, right? You have to be the one to coordinate your care, okay, and make sure you're getting everything done. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. Stephen asked, do you think insurance will ever start covering a running blade or an aqua leg? I know insurance says it's not a necessity or priority, but it would help people if they could had one that are especially want to go run or go swimming. Stephen, you have hit upon it. And again, guys, when it comes to the political arena, I am not as hip as some of my other colleagues in the amputee community. So they can move. I believe it's called that, and I hope I'm not botching it up. So this was a movement, so they can move. Yes. So they can move was started. It was actually started with a legislature for children to make sure that children would receive these kind of running blades, right? That insurance would pay for it. And then it progressed to adults. So there's a couple of people in our community, and oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm blanking out on their names. This is embarrassing because I went running with them at the AC conference, and Nicole, thank you, Nicole is her name. Nicole and Kyle Stepp. Nicole is with the AOPA. Kyle Stepp, he's just in everywhere. He's been in my show. But they are part of the movement that are helping get this legislature passed state by state to basically say that things like a running blade are not luxury items. They're not luxury items, and that insurance needs to start paying for them. So guys, Google, and again, I apologize, I am botching up the explanation for this, but Google so they can move legislature, and you'll start to see what they're doing. And there's a lot of movers and shakers in the amputee community now that are putting this into play and making this a priority to get this legislature passed, which I think is very, very, very cool. Kesha asks, how do you prevent or stop the dead leg feeling when you stand for a period of time and then try to walk again? Good question. So first of all, ask yourself, is the dead leg feeling just because you're standing in one place for too long and all of a sudden your brain has to turn on and recognize the leg as your own leg? Is that what you mean by dead leg? Or are you feeling your leg going numb and falling asleep, like the residual limb, in which case that's a different solution. If it's because your leg is falling asleep or feeling numb, that's something you need to talk to your prosthetist about to make sure that there's nothing about the prosthetic fit that is off. If it is a matter of, okay, I just got to wake up my brain a little bit and get moving, usually I tell patients just to start doing gentle weight shifting, just to kind of weight shift in place. And again, those exercises are in my book and in the video exercises. But just start weight shifting, and that kind of wakes up those muscles, the hip muscles and the gluteal muscles, to get going again. And then you just start kind of moving outside of your base of support a little bit, and then off you go. Movement, that's kind of the basic thing is, and I always tell people, don't stay in one place for too long. Keep yourself moving, keep yourself moving. Jesse says, I got a new script for a new socket, looking forward to it. Oh yeah. Let's see, Sean says, I got to come by Orlando to get my adjustable socket. I was recommended to an office in Gainesville. There was a prosthetist I spoke to once from Gainesville. I wonder if it's the same. Okay. Emily says, I just asked my PCP to do a blood test to check my hemoglobin levels to make sure they're good because my hemoglobin was at a 5. Woo. When I went into the hospital for my amputation, I needed 3 blood transfusions. Yeah, you did. Luckily, my taste came back normal and it was a big relief. I'll bet 5. Holy cow. Holy cow. Let's see. Johnny says, I'm considering a road trip traveling from Poughkeepsie down to Richmond for Discovering Your Possible. I understand that you will be there. Yes, guys. And I am so excited about this. And I will have more information. I actually have a beautiful flyer that I will start posting on my social media. So those of you who are in the Richmond, Virginia area, there's a wonderful organization called the Mission Gate Organization. And it was started by one of my highly respected colleagues. His name is David Lawrence, physical therapist who can run circles around me 3 times. And he started this foundation as a way to help bring education to physical therapists, to clinicians about gait training with a wide variety of patients, but amputees being one of them. And through this organization, they've created an event called Discover Your Possible. Actually, the woman who deserves the credit for this Discover Your Possible, her name is Robin. And it's this beautiful woman that you see right here. Robin is an above the knee amputee. She's a cancer survivor. She's an amazing, amazing woman. Her story is in my book. So if you guys have my book, you can find the biographies on all of my models in the back part. So anyways, she created this amazing event called Discover Your Possible. We actually did it in 2019 and in 2020. We gathered amputees, caregivers, clinicians, and we had just a wonderful day of events. And I was very fortunate to be asked to be the keynote speaker for a 3rd year. So I will be going this year again, and I'm really, really excited about it. I'm excited to go see the friends that I made in Richmond a few years back and get to see them again, like Harsh. I hope I get to see you there. And I hope I get to see the Golden Girls. Hopefully they'll be coming in too. So guys, if you're in the Richmond area, you can send me a message and I'll send you the information, or just keep your eyes open on my social media because I'll be posting more information on that. Ooh, Johnny says activity legs are now available from insurance in New Mexico. Yes, I think New Mexico is one of the first states, and I want to say Arizona. There's been a couple of states that have already made this approval. Yes, it's Kyle. Yes, I know. And if Kyle's listening right now, he's just going like he's just smacking his head right now. Sorry, Kyle. I'm sorry. Sean says I'm having bad luck here in Jacksonville. Sean, send me a message, man. Send me a message. Let's see. Okay. Let me answer one of Emily's questions. Emily always sends really well thought out questions. Emily, I'm going to grab one of the questions. And then I promise you I will get to the other 2 next week. Promise you. Okay, so Emily asks, what is a revision surgery and why do some amputees have to have them? I'm a relatively new amputee and I only had the original surgery to amputate my left foot and ankle. Haven't had any complications, but I've heard many amputees mention revision surgeries, which is a little scary. Having the original amputation was traumatic in itself. I can't imagine what it's like to have a revision for whatever reason that may be. Yes, it sounds scary. So, but I mean, I'll be very honest with you, and this is not pulling any research. This is just me thinking about the hundreds of patients I've seen over the 23 years. I would say 20 to 30% of my patients end up having to have a revision. 20 to 30%. Okay. And again, this is just me thinking back in I haven't looked up any official research on this one. I'll need to look that up actually. So a couple of reasons a person might need a revision. Usually infection, some sort of infection sets in and the person has to have a clean out done, or they have to have, some of the necrotic tissue removed and perhaps a little bit of a shortening to get rid of that necrotic tissue. So that's usually the cause I see people needing a revision. For other people, if they have issues with their soft tissue, so if they have a really flabby end, especially on the below the knee amputees, where it's like the bone stops and then they have just like flabby tissue and it's just all over the place and they cannot get a good socket stability fit, then it may require the surgeon to go in and either remove some of that soft tissue or reposition it and reattach it in a different way. And sometimes even to cover that bone. And that might be the other reason, is if they have a bone that again is becoming a problem. Lots and lots of below the knee amputees have prominent shin bones. That's a normal thing to see in a below the knee amputee. Okay, especially depending on the surgical technique that was used for the original amputation. It does not necessarily mean that they are all going to need revisions, right? It just depends on how much of a problem that bone is causing. Is it interfering with their prosthetic fit? Are they unable to come up with a prosthetic solution? Is the way that perhaps the bone was manipulated during the surgery not optimal? That's another thing, right? So in some cases, they may have to go in and either, kind of bevel off the tibia, shorten the fibula, which is the tiny little bone right next to it, to accommodate it to make it a little bit better. Okay, so these are some of the general reasons someone might need a revision. Another reason might be is if they have a neuroma, right? We talked a lot about that on last year's shows. If they have a neuroma, which is a ball of scar tissue at a nerve ending, excuse me, that's causing a lot of problems and a lot of pain. And so the surgeon may have to go in, revise the soft tissue, remove the neuroma, and do a TMR procedure to help with that part. Okay. And I know it sounds like I'm saying there's a lot of reasons for revision, but I have not seen, like I said, just in my own patient care, it's not as it's maybe about 20 or 30% of patients that I've seen. And that's actually a statistic I need to look up. So Kesha says I had a revision because my leg bones were separating when standing or taking a step, right? Just instability causing there. What is my opinion on TMR surgery? I love it. I spent all of 2022, and you can go back and look at my YouTube channel. I actually had the surgeon who pioneered this surgery come on the show and talk about it. Phenomenal man. His name is Dr. Braiding, and I had several of his colleagues come on the show and talk about it as well. Is it for everybody? Nope, it's not for everybody. It's meant for someone who's having pain from a neuroma. That's specifically what that surgery is meant for, because what it does is it takes the neuroma and it puts the nerve back into the muscle, giving it something to do. And that's a very, very basic description. So Kesha, I would encourage you, go back. I've done like 5, 6 different videos alone on TMR surgery. Okay. And there's actually, if you go on my YouTube channel, guys, I'm kind of proud of this. There's a section called the 2-minute chat, and I'm building up that library. And it's exactly that. It's a bunch of videos where I just talk 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes 4, about a particular subject. So I know I did a 2-minute chat video on TMR. And then underneath those 2-minute chat videos, guys, I give you the links to all the shows that I've done. So if you want to learn more information on a particular topic, then you can click the links below. And I hope it'll make it a little easier for you to find the information. Let's see. So Jerry said my revision was done yesterday by a plastic surgeon. Love it when you guys have a plastic surgeon doing it because it's like nicely done. My bone was making my leg bleed, so that's why I had mine smoothed down. Okay. So Emily asked, what is the feeling turnover for revision for a generally healthy individual? It can be about the same as it was for the original amputation. And again, a lot of it depends on what was done, right? So about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, depending on what was done. And if everything is going well, nothing else is going wrong, then the surgeon will typically clear the patient to continue using their prosthetic socket. But again, all of that depends on what was done during the revision itself. Okay. I am officially talked out. All right, guys. For those of you who have been watching the show and would like to be able to receive an alert text when I go live, here's what you need to do. Text Cozy Talks just like that, all caps, one word, to that number right there, and you will receive a text message. Usually I do about 15 minutes before I go live on Wednesday nights. Hopefully you guys received that tonight. Did you guys receive the text tonight? I did it. I sent it out. Hopefully you got it. And I promise I don't spam your phone or sell your information or any kind of that baloney. So if you're interested in getting a text alert, and I put the links there for YouTube and Facebook to make it easier for you to find me, go ahead and text Cozy Talks to there, and then, oh, good, you guys all got it. Yay, it's working. Thank you. And you'll receive those text messages. All right, guys. So with that, I will say, as always, thank you for letting me be a part of your lives this evening. Thank you for those of you who are newcomers to the show. Hopefully I didn't scare you off, and we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye, guys.